I'm very excited about the support. We'll see. You'll see when we introduce this legislation, we have a very large amount of co-sponsors in the Democratic caucus. We're at over 60 now, 60 original co-sponsors in legislation, which is an enormous amount, and we even have more that weren't able to be original co-sponsors, so there are more that are co-sponsoring the legislation even after our initial rollout. I'm very excited. I see, and this includes broad support across the party. I'm very excited about it, and I'm really excited for our party's overall commitment to addressing this issue.
Are you offended that Speaker Pelosi called this the green dream?
No, I think it is a green dream. And I think that it is, and I think that that all great American programs, everything from the Great Society to the New Deal, started with a vision for our future. And I don't think that, I don't consider that to be a dismissive term. I think it's a great term.
And there is no greater champion on climate change than Nancy Pelosi.
That's right.
I was the chair of the Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming. There's no greater champion. And just at noontime today, she said she welcomes the enthusiasm of the backers of the Green New Deal. And that's what we have here. All issues go through three phases: political education, political activation, political implementation. So you're seeing the beginning of the education and activation phase, and ultimately we're going to have the legislative implementation phase of this program as well.
Can you explain where the New Deal stands on nuclear power? There's just some confusion after the initial fact sheet went out that said there was no room for nuclear. Is that where you stand on this?
The resolution is silent on any individual technology, which can move us towards a solution of this problem. This is a resolution that does not have individual prescriptions in it, so it is silent, the resolution itself.
But there was a fact sheet that said no nuclear coming from.
That is not part of the resolution.
Are there any Republicans you're talking to? Are there any Republicans you're talking to that have signaled any willingness to come aboard? And can you name any names?
I won't name names. Not trying to get anyone in trouble here early. But I do think, but I do think that it, when I do kind of speak to members of the Republican caucus, there are a few issues where they truly believe and express interest in coming together. And in addition to criminal justice reform and infrastructure, which this is in many ways an infrastructure bill as well, is the environment. And we are really starting to see that environmental and climate issues are issues that swing voters decide who they're going to cast their vote on. So I'm thrilled to say that there is interest.
Congresswoman.
Do you guys expect this to be offset by higher taxes?
So, do you want me to?
You go, yeah, please.
So I think, and I spoke about this morning, is that I think that part of this is also really examining the role of government and what government is for. And I don't think that, I think it's important that we get away, and we also study our economic history, that government expenditure is not always just 100% offset by a tangible increase in that tax that same year. And so I think that we certainly saw that we certainly see the Republican embrace of that with the tax cut bill, which does not generate economic growth. But I'm looking forward to really communicating that this is an investment. For every $1 that we spend on infrastructure, we get a return on that investment. For every $1 that we spend on tax cuts, we get less than $1 back. And so this is about making smart investments, and this is about making investments that actually generate returns and not lying about the fact that they generate returns. They actually generate returns.
And one thing we're going to fight for is to make sure that all the renewables, all electric vehicles, that they're getting the same tax rates that the fossil fuel industry has received for the last 100 years. That's a fight worth having, and they might consider that to be a tax increase, but that is something that we are going to try to remove from the tax rolls of our country. Question? Yeah, yes, right here.
So, about a decade ago, you were leading a sweeping movement for cap and trade measures.
Yes.
Died in the Senate.
it cost some members their districts, and are you worried at all that this will give Republicans, a cudgel to beat up Democrats if you're going too far left going into the 2020 election? Sorry, for the Congresswoman, do you have any assurance from Speaker Pelosi that this resolution will come to the floor?
Okay. The difference between 2009 and 10 and today is the movement that has now been built, okay? We did not have that movement in 2009 and 10. This is now a voting issue across the country. The green generation has risen up, and they are saying that they want this issue solved, and they want the people who work in this building and occupy the White House to solve this problem. So this is going to enter the 2020 election cycle as one of the top 2 or 3 issues for every candidate on both sides for them to have to answer. And yes, that was the year the Koch brothers, that was the year Peabody Coal started to pour their millions into trying to create a climate where people did not believe in climate science. We now have the troops, we now have the money, we're ready to fight, okay? And so the difference between 2009 and 10 and today is we now have our army as well. Okay, you want to?
Sure thing. And I think it's important to just to reiterate on that as well, is that I think a lot of times when people say who lost elections on what, I often think they're wrong, just personally. I don't think that we lose elections by addressing climate change. I don't think we ever have, and I don't think we ever will. I think that what this is really about is how ambitious we're going to be. And what I sense, at least in some portions of the country, is that people grow frustrated because they don't feel like we're being ambitious enough, and people grow frustrated by half measures and solutions that don't comprehensively and effectively touch their everyday lives. And on the other half of the issue, I want to reiterate what Senator Markey also said earlier, is that Nancy Pelosi is a leader on climate, has always been a leader on climate, and I will not allow our caucus to be divided up by silly notions of whatever narrative. We are in this together. We are 100% in this together. And we have different solutions and different mechanisms, different cars we got to drive to get there. But we got to take a lot of different paths. We have the Environmental Subcommittee on Oversight. We have the entire Energy and Commerce Committee. We have the Judiciary Committee that also is going to play a role in so many of these tangential effects. And it's going to take all of us doing it together. And I think that's the really important point to get across, because this issue faces all of us, and we are not going to get divided over it, period. We leave no one behind on our solutions.
And we have, by the way, the chairman of the Rules Committee, Jim McGovern, with us, who decides which bills come to the floor of the United States House of Representatives, right? You don't get more powerful than that.
Congresswoman, may I ask a question?
Amy from Axios. Amy.
Thank you very much. Are you concerned about the fact that this requires a much bigger increase in government that will feed into President Trump's and other Republicans' accusations that the Democratic Party wants to have America be a socialist country?
Well, I think first of all, I find this hilarious because this president seeks to expand government into the bodies of women. They seek to expand government to spontaneously generate detention centers all along our southern border. They seek to expand government in separating children from their parents. They seek to expand government in passing massive increases in military spending when we have no wars to fight or that we should be fighting. So this is not about who's expanding government. It's about who we're working for. And we're choosing to work for the people of the United States.
Yeah. Okay, yes, sir.
So you talked about being 100% united, but today Speaker Pelosi appointed a climate commission that you were not on, and in her remarks today said she had not even read the resolution.
So how sure are you that she's behind this effort?
I know. So Speaker Pelosi and I have spoken at length about climate. We share this priority. She did in fact invite me to be on the committee, and so I don't think that this is a snub. I don't think that this is anything like that. And we can have the conversation about the committee another day. But today is about the vision that we're putting forward and the actual legislative plan. And that is right now. This legislative scope is the only legislative scope that has been presented in this Congress.
Well, as a follow-up, why did you decide not to serve on the committee?
I think that, and again, I think I serve on the Environmental Subcommittee of Oversight. I'm on 4 subcommittees. We're doing this. And additionally, the Select Committee is an investigatory body. And I'm really excited to support Representative Castor in her agenda, in holding these hearings in frontline communities. And we also have, so they're tackling the investigative piece, and right now we're tackling the legislative piece.